Please remain seated. The show will begin in 3, 2...
Like a Hellcat.
Hi, I'm FandomTraveller87.
Wanna hear a ghost story?
The world isn't always cupcakes and rainbows. Sometimes society paints us a misrepresentation of what allegedly the facts are. Because when it comes to paranormal cases, most would argue, well, they can't be scientifically proven. But there are numerous reports from any state or any country in the entire universe where either one or an entire group of maybe 5 or 6 have experienced being touched, being tormented in their sleep, suffering from sleep paralysis, or being physically attacked, or someone they know close to them is targeted by a demonic presence. Anything is possible. I learned from a childhood movie that as people get bigger, their imaginations get smaller. In this tale, we all learn one common lesson, but perhaps sometimes is forgotten in time. That life is a gamble. It is about taking risks. And sometimes the choices that we make can either build us up or break us down. Sam is a victim of not only domestic abuse by his own mother, but he is also the victim of infliction by something that supposedly is unseen, allegedly. And who knows what fate is in store for him? Can he overcome this obstacle? Can he once again learn to live a normal life as the average kid that he used to be? But perhaps, as said before, he was once a normal average kid who had everything until tragedy struck, having lost the one friend he truly had in the world, his father, his protector, the one person that he looked up to more than everything, that is no longer in his life. And now, he has gotten close to someone else. A girl the exact same age as him, who shares the same gift. Can they both band together to solve the mystery and put an end to the hauntings of the Kingswood house? I'm FandomTraveller87, and thank you again for joining me on this journey into exploring this terrifying tale. I am so honored and privileged to be joining you again tonight. So, grab some popcorn, grab some soda, get bundled up in a nice warm blanket, or if you happen to be someplace else, just get comfortable, because this is going to be a long, bumpy ride. And please watch at your own discretion. This video is not suited for those who are small children and those who are under the age of 18. Anyone above 18, well, there might be some content in this video that might be triggering to you still, so you've been warned. And if you happen to get nightmares tonight, it's not my fault that you decided to click on this video and listen to it all the way through. I'm just here to bring some smiles on people's faces. Maybe make you laugh a little bit. Maybe make you laugh at yourself. I'm just kidding. I'm sure that you guys are decent looking. But anyway, alright, I'm sorry. I'm just rambling on here, so let's just get right back into the story. Alright, here we go. After another ear-splitting, migraine-filled, tedious, mentally deteriorating, torturous day at his educational penitentiary, Sam, at around 4 o'clock, was riding his bike down the usual route, although decided, well, that he was going to go camp out deep in the woods. He also planned to catch some big trout, and even though it was awfully chilly outside during this time, he just liked to unwind and isolate himself from all the negative distractions that have been going on. Considering the recent experiences that have plagued him during the night, and perhaps time away would help him. Sometimes there's not some 100% guarantee that he will not be targeted again. It's like a bad stain that can't be removed, or an itch that can't be scratched. And sometimes the things that stick to us are like rashes. And, well, maybe here's a better analogy. Ghosts are like relatives. You may not like them, but you might still invite them in. And sometimes you run the chance of them never leaving. And they will annoy the hell out of you. They're like buzzards. They just swarm around you all day long until eventually you start going insane. But you know what? The police can't do much to help you there. Because oftentimes the authorities are not just gonna take you seriously. Sam just wanted to put all of this out of his mind, just for once. And so, he places some bait on his fishing hook, and then lowers his line into the water. About 10-20 minutes go by, and, well, nothing happens. Now approaching 4:45, no fish was biting, and Sam's stomach was growling. He rolled his eyes in annoyance, and groaned in frustration, rubbing his temples and holding his stomach. He was definitely annoyed, and he definitely didn't have the patience for this anymore. Sam then grabbed his hunting rifle from his bag, and placing his boots back on, and his hat, making sure that he was also bundled up in his heavy winter attire, he decided to go to the old sawmill right on Phil's property where deers would frequently graze, and it was right in the middle of a forest clearing. So it would be easy open range to make one solid hit. The crickets were chirping. The owls were hooting in the trees. The wind was blowing, but not too hard. It was somewhat serene and peaceful. Thank goodness, he muttered to himself. Finally, I can have some. But he paused. He then heard something rustling between two trees in the clearing. He raised his rifle just slightly to lock, load, and aim at his potential target. It was a moose, and it was huge. And for a few minutes, there was no movement. The moose just stood there very, very still, as stiff as a board. But then some fog rolled in, and it blinded Sam until eventually at some point the fog had faded, and the moose had just galloped off, making some really loud screeching sound as though it was startled by something that was there but wasn't there. Seriously? He shouted out loud, dropping his gun to the ground furiously and stomping his feet. Haven't I been through enough, Lord? Why do you do this to me? Why? Can't I just have just 2 seconds? Just 2 seconds of normalcy in my life? Can't I have something go right? Fortunately for him, a jackrabbit was hopping just past his feet. Okay, let's just get this over with. And in one swift motion, with a knife in his hand, he killed the rabbit. And then he returned to his campsite, grabbing a large metal bowl deep enough to put some boiling water in and adding some vegetables and other ingredients. He then had the thing cook and sizzle for a while till it was edible. And then he ate his supper. Sam then crawled into his tent and slowly drifted off to sleep. Now, you may be wondering if he got any rest that night. Well, he did for the last 5 hours. Until at about 3 o'clock in the morning, something had jolted him awake. He had flung out of his sleeping bag, dazed, trying to process what was happening. He heard footsteps, heavy footsteps, just crunching along, just lurking around his tent. He couldn't move. He couldn't understand, like, why? Why was this happening to him? What did he do so bad in life that he deserved to go through all of this grief, having to once again experience something truly horrifying as being followed and stalked by something that was probably already dead to begin with, and it wasn't going to leave him alone. Sam then gathered up the courage to once again get his camera, and he unzipped the front of his tent, and he just swiftly and briskly crawled out. And he stood up, and it's just pitch blackness everywhere. He can't see even 2 inches in front of his face. And there is still fog that is clouding the perimeter of the campsite. The whole area is just engulfed in fog. And he doesn't know why he does this, but he just starts snapping photographs. Something just tells him deep down in his gut, just snap some photos. Then also in his dumb 13-year-old brain, he also decides to yell and swear at who or whatever this was that supposedly could be a life and death situation to his person. But he was fumbling with his words. He was shaking, and he was nearly pissing himself because he didn't know how to react. But something was out here. So he dives right back into his tent and zips it right back up. He then crawls back underneath inside of his sleeping bag and just bundles up, curls up into a ball. But then something tells him to look at the photographs that he just took. So he carefully scans the first one. And after his eyes start to focus and become more clear in their vision, he sees something in the fog, an outline of a person. It is a woman, about 5'6", with curly hair at shoulder length. She is wearing a blue, torn cocktail dress. She has dark, hollow eye sockets, crimson orbs where the eyes should be. Her face is partially melted off, and she's got a bloody gash on one side of her head. The left side of her head, where bone, part of her skull, is shown. And she has her jaw drop down into a silent scream. The very thing that Betsy Ann described that she saw that night, that summer, outside of the Kingswood house. Sam's heart sank. His blood ran cold. The color just faded out of him. He couldn't speak. He just laid there motionless, staring at that photograph that he took in the fog. That voice, that same voice he heard in the attic, that same night. Who told him to leave? Why was she here? Did she actually follow him here? But why now? What changed her mind?
You must set us free. Sam, set us free.
Shadows fluidly moved, danced along the tent. Ghostly hands brushing against the outside, trying so desperately to enter where Sam was sleeping. But why me? Why? Sam cried out. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. Please. I can't help you. Please leave me alone. Please leave me alone. A river of tears were now streaming down Sam's cheeks as his hands covered his face. He prayed to God to make all this go away. He couldn't face this all now. He just couldn't. He hadn't the energy. He had absolutely no energy left to deal with this right now. But then he thought of Betsy. What if her breaking her elbow wasn't an accident? But why would her grandmother say that it was? So many unresolved, unanswered stuff. He had to get to the bottom of this, but a part of him just felt torn and lost. He felt as though he didn't have much leads. And besides, even if he did find out more of what went on in that house, how could he set them free? How could he set those spirits free? Honestly, he doesn't know what to do. He's debating with whether or not he should face this ghost once and for all. But he's so scared that she might hurt him somehow. After all, he was already emotionally damaged from everything else that went on. He just wasn't sure of whether or not he could handle anymore. It was too much. It was just too much. But Sam just had to get this over with. 'Cause who knows? This ghost wasn't going anywhere, and she wasn't going to leave him alone until he heard her out. So, Sam, once again, in reluctance, with his lantern in a quivering hand, exits his tent. And he just stands there, dead center, calling out Felicia's name. I know who you are, and I know what happened to you. I don't want any trouble, so please, Mrs. Kingswood, don't hurt me. The apparition then briskly emerged from the shadows. But she wasn't in grotesque form this time. She looked beautiful and as radiant as she was when she was alive. She was definitely transparent, but totally not frightening looking. So, the apparition, the ghost of Lady Kingswood, extends out her left hand reassuringly and takes his wrist gently.
Find my killer, Sam. Find my killer. And reunite me with my child. Please, set us free. Set us free.
When the ghost of that dead woman spoke to him so endearingly the first time, Sam actually felt warmth and relief. He wasn't so afraid anymore. But he was also very baffled. Find her killer? But he thought... But before he could ask any questions, the ghost just disappeared back into the fog. And eventually the fog cleared, and there was only a clear, blue, dark ocean blue sky with a full moon shone over the clouds. The next afternoon, about 1:30, at school, Sam sat outside in the lunch area, and he was just looking over the same photographs over and over again. But mostly over the very same photograph of the dead woman that fit the same exact description of what Betsy Ann saw in that attic window. Betsy Ann came around the corner with some books in hand and she approached him. "Hey, Sam, is it okay if I sit here?" she asked. Sam nodded. "Oh, yes, of course," he replied eagerly. "We need to talk, Betsy." Betsy looked at him for a moment. She hesitated, but she knew that, well, this was going to come eventually, and there was no avoiding this any longer. So, Betsy Ann joins him, and that's when Sam started to show her the photographs that he took on his camera. Starting with the very first one, with the dead woman making her presence known in the fog. "Oh my God," Betsy stammered. Is that?" "Yes, it is," replied Sam. "She followed me to my campsite, and she actually spoke to me, really spoke to me. She's in a lot of trouble, Betsy. She needs our help. Our help. You understand? We need to do something." Sam had also had a tape recorder capturing the woman's voice as well, and Betsy listened to it. She listened to the woman's pleas, her desperate cries for help. They both looked at each other in astonishment. Yeah, something definitely had to be done. Betsy then confessed, "I was attacked by something on Marigold's Road, not too far away from her property. It wasn't an accident, Sam. I was attacked by her scarecrow. Something made it come to life. It's like that story, and by R.L. Stein. You know the one." Sam, of course, knew about it, obviously. "What, you think that somebody had some sort of spell book and that made the scarecrow come to life?" he teased. "Sam, now isn't the time for jokes, okay? But I wonder if something from that house possessed that scarecrow. I must have an attachment, just like you." It all made sense. And Sam and Betsy couldn't argue that. They both had something that was linked to them. It was like gum that got stuck at the bottom of your shoe. And it would just dry and just stick on there. And you couldn't pry it off, no matter how many times you try. And eventually you could wash it off. But sometimes it would just follow you every step that you take. And it wasn't just going to go away very easily. They both had to break their promises once again. Betsy Ann didn't want to upset or worry her grandmother anymore, but without either of them, those souls bound to that house and the property, anything associated with it, was stuck there, imprisoned in that wretched hell, that purgatory, that foundation of nothing but absolute misfortune and tragedy. Alright guys, I'm going to leave this video here. I really do hope that you enjoyed it. Please like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell to receive future updates on all juicy content. And please be sure to check out all the other parts to this story from beginning to end. I would really appreciate the views. And of course, I hope you all remember to be your beautiful selves and to always stay spooky. Remember to keep your windows barred shut curtains drawn, doors locked up tight, and to always look underneath your bed before you go to sleep. Pleasant nightmares, everyone. Until next time, have a wonderfully fantastic Spooktober. Bye. Bye.